The Joe Flynn Show, and I am here at the Sacramento Horror Film Fest with the one and only Harry Manfredini. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Priscilla. Nice to meet you.
I have so many questions.
Well, I have so many answers.
Now, Harry is the composer of many soundtracks, memorable, important soundtracks like Friday the 13th.
Yes.
And Swamp Thing?
Yes.
And did you want to talk about some others that you were involved in?
I did a series called House. Let's go on. I could talk all day.
Now, first of all, what got you involved in music in general?
In general? I started taking lessons when I was 6. And I loved music, and oddly enough, my whole life I wanted to write music for films. I think watching old movies with my mom at night, before second grade and third grade, we'd stay up late at night and watch old movies, and I just loved movie music. My father was into Italian opera, so I got that drama sort of thing. My brother was into very avant-garde jazz, so sort of a mix of those two things plus whatever films I saw. And that's always what I wanted to do, so you've got to be careful what you wish for.
Now, were you a fan of horror movies?
Oddly enough, no. I mean, I like horror films, I like good films. I saw, when I was going to films a lot, I saw what they called, I guess they were called horror films, but they really weren't anything like what we would think of today. But I'm not a big fan of horror films, oddly enough, even though I seem to have, grown towards them, and I do them well. They're fun to do. That's one of the best things about writing music for horror films, because as a composer, you're pretty much open to just about anything. It's not like it's got to be funny, or it's got to be cute, or it's got to be a certain... Horror films give you a chance to pretty much stretch out and do all kinds of things. So they're certainly a lot more fun to score than most other films.
Interesting. Well, I'm so fond of music, period, and I'm so fond of musical soundtracks, and I think I was telling you a little bit of my collection.
Bless you.
Well, it means so much, either silence in certain scenes or the music that's going on in certain scenes. It can just make or break a scene. So I just find it just as powerful as writing or whatever is going on in that scene. Now, you also worked on Dead and Gone.
Wow, yes, I did. You know this picture.
I do. And what was that experience like?
That experience was a lot of fun. It's a fairly new movie. It's out on DVD just recently. And it all started with a friend of mine, Harry Shannon, who, when I met Harry, maybe 15 years ago, he was the head of music at Carolco. I was doing a movie called Deep Star 6, and then I did a movie called Aces there with Lou Gossett. It was another one of the Iron Eagle movies. And Harry and I became really good friends, and about a year or so ago, he called me and said, I've just written this script called Dead and Gone, and I've got a really great director, Yossi Sasson, and I want you to meet him, and I think we could all make a really cool movie together. And so much, the rest is history. We did it, and I had a great time doing that score. Do you remember the score at all? Because I know you've seen it.
I have seen it.
Well, did you notice that little funny sort of laughing kind of sound? That was, Harry came up to me and he said, I don't know what this is, but it's really spooky, and I think we should use this in the score. And I said, well, whatever, because at that point there was no film shot or anything. But it was a little children's toy about this big. You could hold it in your hand, and when you shook it, if you shook it back and forth, it went something like, and it was kind of spooky. And if you turned it very slowly, it went, ooh, like that. And I went, wow, that really is a spooky little toy. So I sampled it across the keyboard and made different sort of sounds, all with this toy. Then I worked it into the orchestra in that score. So next time you watch it, you'll remember how sometimes the film will sort of shake. if you go there, you'll see. There's just these little laughs that are kind of. It's a story about a guy who's going crazy, and the house is affecting him. And it sort of represents that part of the story.
Well, those subtleties are so important too.
You know, one of the things you just said, and if I could pick up on it, is silence. Silence is almost as important as the music. And just, by the way, for those of you watching at home, we're at the Sacramento Film Festival, and on Friday night we watched Friday the 13th, and we all had microphones, and myself and Adrian commented on the film through the whole thing. And one of the things I pointed out on Friday the 13th for those of you who want to watch it again, watch how much silence there is in that film, which made the characters a lot more believable. And it also, the music only really played for the killer. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that silence actually became more powerful because of the music, where the music actually was played. So it's kind of a cool thing.
I'm pretty fond of that movie, and what made it kind of seem scary to me and isolated was the one scene when the hitchhiker, and this is in the beginning, goes into that diner.
Right.
That scene, for some reason, you know how there's the music in the diner playing. That scene, for some reason, made me scared when I saw it when I was young, because it made me feel like, wow, this girl's hitchhiking in this town where there's nobody but locals. Mm-hmm. And the way that they were looking at her and treating her,
right.
You know, this is unsafe.
It did not look like the friendliest of all diners. Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, but this is always sort of a fun story. In that particular diner, there's a piece of music playing, like a country western tune. Mm-hmm. And when I got the picture to work on, they had a Dolly Parton tune playing just in the temp score. And they said, you know, give us something like that. So the Dolly Parton tune was called Fly Away Little Bluebird. And so I wrote a song called Sail Away Tiny Sparrow. Not very clever, but nonetheless it was a country tune about a girl who was leaving her husband, you know, as country songs go. Anyway, it played in that diner. Then it played in the diner later on when Steve Christie is out in the rain at the diner. And then what happened was I needed something at the end to say, this movie is over, you know, to scare everybody when Jason comes out of the water. So I said to myself, I need something that sounds like a tune, because there really aren't any tunes in the film, in the score. And I needed something that sounded like a tune that I could play to make it sound like, well, here come the credits, put on your coat, it's time to go home. And I was watching and I said to myself, wait a minute, she's in a boat, she's on a lake, why not take Sail Away Tiny Sparrow, just play it a little bit slower, turn it into an orchestra piece. And so actually that little country western tune that I wrote just to fill up the diner turned into the end credits as well.
Wow.
So next time you listen, you could find
Wow,
that.
no, I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm that fond of that movie. Wow. You're giving me chills.
Oh, wow.
I'm talking to the man responsible for the music. Oh my goodness.
Girl chills.
Now, explain the process, you know, someone asks you, you know, we want you to do the music for our movie. What's the process? Do you ever meet the director? Do you ever
sure.
meet the cast? I mean, are you ever happy to be on the set? Do you read the script?
Okay, oddly enough, I rarely meet the cast, and which really makes the cast parties kind of a drag because I've pretty much killed everybody in the movie. And they shouldn't all be alive, but there they are. But no one knows who I am, and I don't know who they are, except other than the people who they were in the movie. But what usually happens is they'll contact me, and you know, we negotiate, we talk about the picture, etc. I usually don't like to know a lot about the picture before I score it. I don't even like to see dailies or partial things. Sometimes I don't even like to read the script because I don't want to know what's going to happen, especially in a horror film. What I want to get is that visceral feeling, the very first feeling, like if you were in a theater, you only get to see it one time. Well, I want to feel that one time because I want to know what you're going to feel because most of the music, one part of the music is to manipulate the audience. So if I know that someone's going to be behind the door with a knife, my feeling is completely changed watching it because it doesn't scare me because I already know that someone is there. So I want to be manipulated by the movie just like someone else would be. Then I have a better idea as to how to create the tension or what really needs the tension or how I'm going to manipulate the audience. So quite often I'll just wait till it's almost completely in a rough cut or even completely done, and that's what I really want to see because I want to get the feeling of seeing it for the first time because that's really what I'm asked to do is to manipulate the audience.
Interesting perspective. What has been the most challenging score that you've had to develop?
Wow, challenging scores. Well, they all have their own. Fun and problem. I mean, to me, when it's a challenge, then that makes it more fun. Everyone is different. I mean, each one has a thing that I just love about it, and each one has sometimes it's different, more difficult. Depending on the film. If the film is rich with a lot of character and a lot of things. I mean, like for example, in House, or even in House 2. I mean, I had to score a barbarian, a worm dog, a baby pterodactyl. I had an old cowboy. I had all these different characters who I had to score. So it made the score just sort of like be all over the place, and I had to come up with a lot of cool new sounds. So that was a lot of fun. It was a big challenge, but it was a lot of fun. Sometimes when there's really not much to do, sometimes that is when the picture isn't delivering, the way it should. But everything is a little bit different. Sometimes a film is sad, and you really have to work to make that work, and without becoming overly sentimental. Without just schmaltzing it up and buttering it up. You try to pull back on that and let the audience feel it themselves. So each one has its own problems and challenges and enjoyment.
Now, I know there's got to be people out there that appreciate the music attached to these scenes as much as I do.
Are there people out there? Yeah, there are.
At least 5, maybe.
I see one of them right there.
Half of them are awake. If anyone is interested in purchasing the soundtracks that you've done, is there a website that they can obtain?
Wow, yes. Oddly enough, there is. You could go to 2 places. You could go to harrymanfredini.com, and you will see all of them there. And there's some samples from each one, because I've really done a whole bunch of different kinds of music. Most people think of me as Friday the 13th, but I've done highly techno ones and things that are real warm and thrillers and all sorts of things. But and you'll see those there. But from that website, it will lead you to something called darkdelicacies.com. It's a store in Burbank, and they carry all my CDs. They carry my lovely T-shirts. And also, if you're a piano player or a musician of some sort, and you're good enough to read a lead sheet, there actually is the lead sheet to Sail Away Tiny Sparrow or the end credits, and you could end your own Friday the 13th movie at home.
Oh wow!
So you could do that as well. So
nice. Well, thanks
for that.
Very
that was really
much.
Nice for you to ask me.
Oh well, thank you very much for the interview.
Priscilla. Thanks so much.
I'm honored meeting you.
Wow, I'm honored meeting you.
And that concludes my interview with the Harry Manfredini.
Bye.